And it starts with all the older folks here in the room. Here is the essential issue that I see in my work with young people. Whenever a person is diagnosed with autism, I gotta take off my coat here. I can leave it hung up here. If I take off my shirt, I might need it. So, anyway, when a person is diagnosed with autism in American society, it's almost always when they're a child. And when somebody's diagnosed as a child, that's never because they're a superstar. It's because there's some kind of failure. They can't make friends, or they got into a fight, or they won't do their schoolwork, or they're failing in some other way. And the child is sent to the psychologists and evaluated, which is itself kind of a scary and unpleasant process. And at the end, they are told that they got this thing called autism. And the parents listen to that, and quite a lot of the time they think, oh shit, it's like he's got syphilis, he can't tell anyone. And there is all this shame around this autism diagnosis. And you know what? That shame prevents the building of community. And you might say to yourself, what does that matter for my 4-year-old boy? Here's why it matters. Because you've got this 4-year-old boy or this 5-year-old girl, and you think, oh, he's just a beautiful child with autism, just a little bit different. But that's not what we are hearing, we autistic people. I can absolutely guarantee that every autistic person who goes to public school in America has had the same kind of experience as me. When I was a kid in public school 50-some years ago, I was told I was retarded, I was mental, I was stupid, and then when I got older and they used bigger words in high school, I was a psychopath and I was a sociopath. The thing is, if we don't have constructive explanations, if you don't say you have autism to your child, all your child is left with is the explanation on the street, and those explanations are ugly. And even those explanations aren't enough. And I want to tell you how I learned that. You've heard that I teach autism and neurodiversity at William & Mary in Virginia. And I grew up in the South as segregation was coming to an end. At William & Mary, we have a head of our counseling center who's a little bit younger than me, and she's black. And she's got all the stuff I don't have. I'm a 9th grade dropout. She's got a doctorate from a top university. I've been an outlaw going from one job to another all my life because I could never fit in. And she has a prestigious position at one of the top 20 universities in the United States. I've lived all my life feeling inferior to everyone else and living with anxiety and depression. And she's poised and confident. And yet, I'm the tall white male, and she's the comparatively short black female, and you would think those things ought to be reversed. And why is that? Why is that we have this situation? And I realized the answer in talking with her, because both of us, as I said, we grew up as segregation was changing in the South in the 60s and 70s. And people said hateful things to both of us. When people said hateful things to her, she could go home and she could talk to her parents. And her parents could say, those things that they say to you, those things are lies. And the fact is, we have great men and women in our culture, and these are our leaders in Washington. These are the black leaders who are admired all over the world. These have been the black leaders in our culture, and our history goes back thousands of years. And these are the leaders right here in our community. And one day, you're going to grow up, and you're going to stand proud and tall, and you're going to be a leader too. And today, she is a leader at William & Mary. And that was because of culture. Now think about what my parents could say to me. I come home, and the kids have called me all kinds of names because I'm laying on the floor having tantrums. And the doctors are saying all kinds of scary stuff about me because I pick poo out of my pants and I roll it in my hands and I smear it on the wall. You don't think of me doing that today, do you? Because now I'm standing up here, but when I was 4 years old, I absolutely did it. And what do you think people said about that? And then I go home and I'm crying and I say what people said to me to my parents, and what are they going to say to me? Oh, yes, you come from a long line of headbangers and poo smearers, son. You're going to be fine. Well, that's the analogy, and that's the reality of the situation. So when you look at the striking difference in how people who grew up where they were taunted and ridiculed and the victim of racism and discrimination, and yet they had strong cultures and strong families, that culture was their savior. They could grow up proud. I grew up feeling inferior to everyone else, even with all my seeming advantages. So where do you think that leaves kids today? It leaves them in exactly that same shitty place. And I'm here to tell you that it is up to us, this community, to change that situation. Nobody is going to do this for us.